Before I go to the panel members, Kirsten,
Yeah.
when was your first click and when is your last click? And was it for shoe or something else?
I actually thought it was Apple adapters because I needed the real chargers and I found the copy not really working. So I believe it was a apple.com order last week.
Your first click,
I really don't remember.
was that shoe or something else?
No, I'm sure it's shoes, for sure. You can see my shoe collection.
Neel, what was your first click and the last click?
I don't click a lot. My wife does the clicking in our house. I'm sure her last click was probably 5 seconds ago, and it's the middle of the night. I'm certain of that, and I have
Click
no
for
idea.
an order. Click for an order.
Yeah, it's probably 5 seconds ago. Yeah,
Okay.
she probably ordered something.
Boris?
Who knows
sorry.
about the first?
I think the first click is already decades ago. Really early customer of a large brand, well-known brand, doing marketplace services. The last click most likely was also done by my wife. Yeah, recently.
Other.
My first click was, I think, 15 years ago, because we tried to have a contract with Alibaba for the Finnish Post. I ordered some electric stuff. It never arrived. So I don't know where it is. So my last click is made by my girls. They buy everything from fashion by Shein. So I think the market is growing.
Jimmy,
Yes, good morning. My first click probably was an item of clothing, but my last click was for my 80-plus-year-old mother, who's become my best friend now, since she knows she does not own a computer, but she knows now that I can order something for her, and it can be delivered by Amazon to her front door. So that is my last click.
yeah, we just need to hear from all the panel members just brief introduction of yourself and your interest in the e-commerce as a topic. Neel.
It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Neel Jones Shah. I'm the Executive Vice President of Air Freight Strategy and Carrier Development at Flexport. I've been at Flexport for 6 years. Prior to that, spent the bulk of my career, like Kirsten, on the asset side of the business, working for United and Delta. I'm extremely bullish on e-commerce. I think e-commerce has fueled air cargo growth for the past several years. We're at the very early stages of international e-commerce fulfillment, and it's a very exciting space to be involved in.
If there is anyone not really bullish about e-commerce, I think that we need to step out of this hall. Okay, Boris.
Yeah, first of all, welcome. Thanks for having me. I'm heading heyworld, a fully owned daughter company of Lufthansa Cargo. We are a digital logistics provider for e-commerce cross-border solutions. Myself, I'm already about 20 years in the industry, and obviously very bullish about e-commerce.
Other.
Yes, my business is completely different. No, it's only e-commerce. 15 years started with a small company, and we have now 14 salespeople in China to bring our business to Europe, and we have assignments on the airports. At the moment, currently, we are helping Leipzig Airport to be the biggest cargo e-commerce hub, because in my opinion, you cannot talk about cargo and e-commerce. It is e-commerce or cargo. But that is my opinion.
Jimmy.
Jimmy Nares, Section Chief, Miami International Airport. I'm involved in business development, specifically cargo development and passenger development. I focus on different verticals, including perishables, pharmaceuticals, and more now in e-commerce. For us as an airport, we just cannot avoid e-commerce. It has to be part of our growth strategy. Otherwise, we're missing the boat. I mean, IATA a couple of weeks ago estimated 20% of all cargo is e-commerce. And for us, that's about 500,000 tons of air freight. So we see the opportunities. We cannot avoid being involved in e-commerce and trying to grow it.
Okay, let's come to some of the specific topics. And I want to take off from what Kirsten said about speed versus reliability. And I've always thought e-commerce is somewhere that you want to order today and get it delivered yesterday. But that seems to be different in different regions. Why do you think Canadians is looking for reliability than speed?
So obviously we've had many conversations with e-commerce companies that are our customers, and it became more clear and clear as when we spoke and interviewed all these people to say, okay, what is it that you want? What is urgent? And of course you notice it also in the rate requests, right? And the yields are obviously lower. It's very clear that the general Canadian is not that much in a hurry, generally. They like security, meaning I want to make sure when it comes so I can work from home or my kids can be home or whatever. It's more of a planning strategy than it is an item urgent. And of course, it's not everybody generally. That's why the service levels that we contract with our customers is very strict on the on-time performance and the quality levels. So very urgent cargo or requests for e-commerce, we don't really see that a lot in Canada.
Okay.
No.
Neel, what is the reading of talking to your customers? Are they looking for speed? Are they looking for reliability? Are they looking both? Deliver as promised?
I think Canadians are far more patient than Americans.
Yeah.
Because, I think Americans over the past few years have been really conditioned that if they order it, now, it should have been delivered an hour ago. Right, and so I think, and the likes of Amazon and all have conditioned people to expect things to be delivered real time. But I think it's a balance of reliability and speed, and I think that's the way we're going to have to look at this going forward, because there's a whole sustainability conversation that needs to come in here. And everything related to that.
That's the next question that I would want.
Exactly. But I do think that, you need to balance the two. And then I think that as you get deeper into international fulfillment particularly, every SKU is not going to be eligible for fast air freight, from an e-commerce perspective. So, we're going to have to pick and choose, how these things get delivered reliably, but also with the speed that makes it relevant for the customer over brick and mortar.
Boris, what's the reading that you have?
It's exactly what was just said. Yeah, it's about the customer, and the customer decides. There are customers who look for reliability and speed. There are customers who mainly look for speed. And in the end, it's about serving these customer needs and providing the services from logistics partners according to these expectations. And if it is reliability, like in Canada, we should serve that. That's the most important thing.
Either you move a lot of goods from China to Europe and Europe to China. What are your customers asking for?
You talk with Chinese people or handlers 3-4 years ago, they say cheap, fast and reliable. That's not possible. At the moment, they accept 4 days from China's 3 days. But during the pandemic, every last mile provider in Europe thought, I'm the best when I deliver very fast. And now we are coming back on earth, and I tell my ladies, you are searching for shoes, like Kirsten, for 3 weeks, and when they push the button, they like to have it tomorrow. But that's not possible. So for me, a reliable delivery is better than a cheap price.
Yeah. Jimmy?
Yeah, I think in the U.S. and in Miami, where I'm from, the expectation now is that it's both reliable and speedy. In many cases, I'm a member. For example, I'm a member of Prime, Amazon Prime, and for many products, you can receive within a day or two. So after you have that experience, I think a lot of consumers, e-commerce purchasers, then begin to have that expectation. That they expect not only to receive it, but to receive it quickly. So I think both. Are important in the U.S. and in Miami. It's expected speed.
I think e-commerce companies like Amazon have kind of trained all of us to kind of expect things to be delivered fast and quick. Since Neel touched on sustainability, that's an important topic. I think all of us have an insatiable desire to buy things, consume things, buy online. You have an insatiable desire to order shoes. Maybe I have something else. So it's been there's a lot of stuff that's being ordered online. So there is a point in terms of what is that sustainable? Like I've come across people ordering one donut, and you pick it up from a shop, and that person delivers in like 30 minutes. Is that really sustainable? What is your sense? What is your vision in terms of sustainability as a key topic that goes with e-commerce? Kirsten?
I mean, for us being an airline, it comes as a total company strategy, right? So not specifically only to e-commerce. We are in the air cargo business, so you need planes. And we know that as a company, And we are not completely developed in that yet as WestJet, but we're working on what really our sustainability strategy is. I myself, to be very, if I do order something and I do have the opportunity to donate something or whatever, then I'm like, okay, well, that's my good deed of the day. So I always do that in terms of either tickets buying or whatever. Do I consolidate things and maybe don't order 3 times, but only once? I could do a better job in that, but it's definitely something that comes with the strategy on e-commerce or airlines as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. I think as an individual, probably you will consolidate your orders. Instead of ordering 5 times in a day, you would order it once a day or once in a week. Neel, touch upon sustainability and how does sustainability is integrated into Flexport strategy.
Absolutely. Sustainability is an incredibly critical component of how we need to think about our business going forward. Almost every single one of Flexport's customers has now adopted a sustainability platform, have corporate responsibility programs, and there's no doubt that air cargo is a very critical industry. It enables global trade. It allows globalization to move forward. But there's also no arguing the fact that it contributes a lot of carbon, to the environment. And so we have to address, the second topic of sustainability and how do we decarbonize, our industry to the best of our efforts. And, everybody in this room has probably undergone carbon offsets. Kirsten, you're donating, we're planting trees, we're doing whatever we can. I mean, at the end of the day, really the biggest impact is going to come from sustainable aviation fuels, right? I mean, you have to impact it right at the source of where it's being created. That's where you can have the biggest impact. And right now, there's just not enough SAF in the world. And so as an industry, that's where we need to focus our efforts, because if we can do that, we will make a real enormous impact, and it's immediate. And I think that's what we need right now, because the news continues to get more dire, when it comes to topics like global warming.
No, but how do we balance? You would really want, as a freight forwarder, you would really want the volumes to come in from e-commerce channel, which are e-retail, but at the same, you really want the consumers to order more and more, and then you really need to also. How do we balance that?
I mean, yeah, there are competing interests here.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, but it's a responsibility of the smart people who are in this industry. I mean, we can't sacrifice one for the other. Right, and so there are solutions at hand. Why is supply of SAF as low as it is? How do we encourage more production, more refining capacity for that? So these are all solvable problems. I don't think just because it's hard, we shouldn't tackle it. And I also think we shouldn't curtail demand. I mean, we should encourage it, but we have to do both.
Boris, heyworld is an integral part. It's a subsidiary of Lufthansa Cargo, and Lufthansa Cargo has a significant investment interest into sustainability. How does sustainability fit into heyworld?
At the end, it perfectly fits into that. As you said, Lufthansa Cargo made sustainability one of the strategic targets of the company by investing into modern fleet, into modern aircraft, by upgrading the aircraft themselves through shark skin technology, for example, but also through offering SAF solutions, compensation solutions. So this is an integral part of the offer, and therefore also for us, it's part of what we could offer to our customers. And besides of the fact that it's always a matter of how do companies, providers, airlines upgrade their services in terms of carbon reduction, it's also a matter of the choice. Yeah? Do customers have the choice to select carbon neutral transportation, for example? And we are capable to offer that, and I think that's a first and important step to change also expectations and solutions for the customers.
Do you see that customers are willing to put that additional cost for offsetting their carbon footprint? Is that a trend that you see?
I think that it's a trend, but it definitely has to grow. Yeah. So there are signs to do that, and as Kirsten said, yeah, she's also doing that. So the volume must increase for sure, yeah, from a global perspective. but it starts with the options, and
Yeah.
we offer that.
Yeah. As an individual customers, we can do that, and I think as your corporate big customers, I think DB Schenker has been doing with the Lufthansa Cargo, and I think some of your clients as well. Other sustainability, is that an important topic for you?
Yes, because we are working in the front and at the end. When you not control the front, you have at the end a problem. What I mean with this is we roughly have 100 tons, 200 tons every day on an airport. But when it is 50 tons, people are doing nothing. So we like to control the tonnage. We always talk in tonnage of e-commerce. And we find out when you talk with the guys in China strategically, they offer you, for instance, so when one of our biggest customers is Shein, and they offer mostly the last parcel for free. And what I mean with that, in the beginning you had parcels for 300 grams or 200 grams. Now we have parcels in a big bag, mostly between 1 and 2 kilogram. And that is better. It's better to handle for the warehouse management, it's better to handle for the custom clearing, because this is an authority, it's not a commercial thing, especially not in Germany. So they like to have control about the flow. So we are controlling the flow in China to have a good delivery here.
Jimmy, you're a custodian of an airport. You work with the different stakeholders. So how do you drive the sustainability topic into an airport where you deal with the different customers?
First of all, good question, because as Neel mentioned, these are competing interests, right? We in the industry, in airports, airlines, everyone in the logistics community, we want more business, we want more planes flying, which ultimately burn more fuel, right? And is worse for the environment and carbon imprint. But we as an airport, we're taking on initiatives, we're trying to develop initiatives to electrify more of our vehicles on airport. We'd love to have SAF at our airport, but it's still being developed, but one day we would like to see the implementation and the use of SAF at our airport. We're working with companies that specialize in consolidating e-commerce shipments, so at the end of the day, they're actually being more efficient, sending more parcels on fewer flights. They're making better use of each flight, burning less fuel. And then I think there's also other little things we can do as an industry. I'll point to one example by LATAM. A couple of weeks ago, again, in World Cargo Symposium, they announced that they're now using reusable pallet covers instead of the plastic wrap that is used one time and then disposed of. So now there's less plastic waste for that airline and a lower carbon footprint. So we're getting behind initiatives, collectively that in the end will be more sustainable for all of us and the environment and reduce carbon footprint.
Yeah, I know about the LATAM, the project that they run in Brazil and Chile in terms of reducing the plastic, reusable plastic. I think that's also a problem some years, and I think it continues to be people ordering online and multiple boxes landing in your home. How do you dispose of those boxes? Let me come to e-commerce. I think e-commerce is a transaction that I do on a mobile is also an e-commerce, but then that doesn't serve the purpose of any of our interest. E-commerce is something that you order online and you have a packet that is to be moved. I don't know to what extent is the volume of e-commerce, is that something that has been captured? I believe a lot of cargo goes as general cargo. Do we have a system to really quantify what is the e-commerce cargo that comes into your business? I don't know how much is, Kirsten, you've been operating about less than a month now?
Yeah, not even. Since the 22nd, so I don't have any feedback on that yet. Although in the existing operations on the narrow bodies, I mean, we have about 170, 180 planes, right? So and most of them are narrow bodies. So there's a lot of e-commerce already. Obviously, what I just showed on Canada being the 10th country in the world for cross-border e-commerce, we have a lot of consolidation in the big two hubs, Vancouver and Toronto. And yeah, then you need air cargo to distribute it because Canada is so big. You can't just truck specifically in winter times and stuff. So it's already embedded in our operation, specifically in the narrow bodies, because it's just easy cargo to optimize. So it's already currently a large part. I would say on the belly probably, I'm just giving a guess, probably about 30 to 35% is e-commerce, which all comes from Toronto into the country or Vancouver into the country.
Yeah, I would want Neel, Boris, and Jimmy, because when I talk to airports to identify what is the volume of e-commerce cargo, a lot of them do not have because there's a lot of general cargo that goes into. Do we have a system to really calculate and quantify the e-commerce component or e-commerce cargo? Neel?
I think it's a great question. I think the answer is I don't think we actually know. You do have a lot of e-commerce that looks and smells like e-commerce, and it's packaged to, and labeled to the consumer, right? That's specifically e-commerce fulfillment. There's also a lot of stuff that ends up, moving as general cargo consolidations, but then ends up in an e-commerce channel, when it gets to that retailer's distribution center, right? It's for, e-commerce, their e-commerce versus their brick and mortar. So it's hard to exactly know how much is going where, but I would say that, for Flexport's business, I would say a good 50% of probably everything we move probably ends up in an e-commerce channel at the end of, its ultimate journey to the consumer is probably close to 50%. I mean, not too far off of your estimation of 35%. That's probably where we are, but I don't think we have an exact number in our business at this point.
Boris?
The same applies for us. We have no exact numbers, no system to really figure out what is e-commerce behind. It's also dependent on the definition at the end. There's a lot of B2B business going to a distribution center, then distributed, breaking down. But I guess it's something between 20 to 40%.
Okay, Jimmy, that's probably is one of the biggest challenge that you have to identify, because you have multiple integrators operating into Miami.
Yes, it is difficult for us as an airport to quantify e-commerce. Most shipments are low value, as you said, go in general cargo. The de minimis in the U.S. is I think $800, so most of the shipments fall within that under that value, and so for us it is difficult to quantify e-commerce, but. To your point, we have seen that when during times when we've had a record year, for example, in 2021, and our cargo volumes increased, we noticed that a lot of that growth came from the integrators, from UPS and FedEx, and so. But no, it is very difficult. Most of the shipments for e-commerce do fly under the radar for us. It's difficult for us to quantify at this time.
But do you have any system being planned? How do you want to really put out numbers that actually is close to what the reality is?
It's very difficult for us right now, really. I mean, we have an estimate of I think we're in line with what IATA reported, about 20%, but it's very difficult for us at this time.
Arthur, you also work with part of Leipzig.
For me, it is quite easy to find out what's inside because we are working with customs.
Yeah.
And what we see in Luxembourg Airport is roughly 60% e-commerce. And also on Leipzig Airport it's the same. But what you see is we calculate FBA and B2B and B2C as e-commerce. So then you have 60%, but there is a movement going on for years already. The Chinese handlers are coming to Europe for warehousing. So then all the B2C will be B2B. But it is still e-commerce. So you see in big chains, it's easier for cargo because the bulk is higher, the value. But I think 60%, what I see, is still e-commerce. And it is growing.
Something in terms of technology, I think there is digital platforms being created. Everybody really wants to know where my cargo is. Track and traceability. So digital platforms are being created for consumers to really track and trace where the cargo is. Digital transformation, digital strategy for WestJet and for the e-commerce customers for you.
Yeah. So we're heavily investing in that. We just cut over to a new system last year, November. but we definitely have room on improvement, so we're investing this year in really our digital platform and self-serve capabilities. I think what's different also in Canada is that we do a lot of B2C directly, because intra-Canada you don't need a freight forwarder, right? So a lot of the customers or people actually make a booking with WestJet. They just call the contact center, just a you and me individual, and that can go from their pets to their e-commerce to their family relocations. So for WestJet Cargo as a strategy, we need to invest heavily in better online capability, and yeah, we have room for improvement when it comes to track and trace as well. So indeed, again, reliability, they want to know where it is and when it's getting there. It's super important for our success. So definitely on our to-do for 2023. Yeah.
Neel, Flexport is about 10 years old, and there's been a tremendous acceleration of your enhancement of your digital platform. You're a digital freight forwarder. How critical is the digital strategy, digital technology tools for Flexport and for its customers?
Well, I mean, our very existence is based on our desire to digitize, the end-to-end supply chain, for our customers. So that's a critical mission. Our original vision was to be the operating system for global trade, and to enable shippers of all sizes, right, to be able to access a reliable supply chain and to have visibility, reliability, and quality, with their shipping experience. And so, that is the foundation of who we are as a company. Some of you may have heard we acquired Shopify Logistics last week, and including the Deliverer platform. And so this is sort of now the final piece of the puzzle for us now to really offer a factory to final mile consumer or business door solution that we will now tie together with a single pane of glass, so a customer can actually see that from beginning truly to final delivery. So we're very excited about the prospects that this brings and how it accelerates our journey.
Acquisition of Shopify and Deliver, was it strategic or was it an opportunistic?
It was always a strategy to be able to do this. The opportunity presented itself, and so this now accelerates, the plan. So we're very, very excited, and it was a great opportunity for Flexport.
How soon do you think this will get completely integrated into the Flexport platform?
I mean, it's hard to exactly say. This transaction will close in the next 30 days, and then we'll get to doing the hard work. But we acquired some wonderful assets. We acquired a lot of great technology, and we acquired a lot of great people. And so, there's no telling, when we harness all of this, what we can accomplish. But I think, there'll be more on this in the weeks and.
Boris, heyworld started 5 years. It was like a in-house project, but it has really accelerated in the last 2-3 years. You have about 4 narrow-body freighters connecting different markets within Europe and outside. How important is the technology platform? You come from a technology side. You've been a digital transformation leader at Lufthansa Cargo. So the importance of technology platforms and innovations for e-commerce company like heyworld.
So heyworld itself is, I would say, digital from its core. That's the whole idea. And at the end, it's a question: how do you want to move parcels and get visibility about this business if you're not digital? Yeah, we're talking about huge volumes. At the end, you need to integrate partners in the whole supply chain. All that is digital today. It's about the interfaces to customs. It's about the interfaces to last mile providers. It's the interface to shops potentially. All that is digital. So that is the major driver also to manage the parcel chain, to orchestrate the whole thing. So I couldn't imagine anything else if not digital, especially for e-commerce business.
Other?
Definitely what Boris said, it must be digital. That's why we have a new assignment on an airport, and it is a typical cargo airport. We always ask make a special room only for e-commerce because they need speed, they need information. The clients in China ask where is my parcel, where is it? And the classic cargo is completely different. So digitalization that he said is very important.
Jimmy, again, airport works with the different stakeholders. You really need them to be aligned to the larger vision of an airport to really make it really a digital airport.
Yeah, yes, very good. No, as an airport, we're a little bit different than some of the other panelists. At least in our case, our model is such that we cannot go out and purchase a cargo management system and have all of our airlines, all of our ground handlers force them to use the system. So, but we do see the value, of course, in digitalization and technology. I think that's the way to, of course, of adding efficiency. So we as an airport are as a facilitator, really, that's our role. We're meeting with many different companies that do offer solutions in cargo management, and then we're in turn meeting with our airlines, encouraging them to to implement certain IT solutions for themselves. So that's our role, but and we see that as a solution though in improvement efficiency for the process.
One common question to all of you in terms of the potential of the cross-border e-commerce. Are we still scratching on the surface? How big is the cross-border e-commerce and the impact it would have on air freight logistics? I've seen like at regional levels, it has reached a certain point, but on cross-border e-commerce, are we going to see a huge growth in the coming years? Neel, you want to start?
Sure. I think we're in the early stages. I think we really are. I think there's a lot of potential ahead, a lot of growth. I think it's cross-border international e-commerce fulfillment is going to be a driver of air cargo growth for the coming years. And and it's not only the big names that everybody knows, right? The Amazons, the Alibaba China. We all know those names, and they have a lot of muscle, and they can acquire their own fleets and do things. But there are hundreds of other names below that. That are also getting involved in this space and want to be competitive. And so I think we're in the early stages, and we've got many years of growth ahead of us.
Anyone else?
I mean, e-commerce is growing for sure, and cross-border e-commerce, I think it's a real special growth segment of the whole industry, of the whole shipment flow. And it's because cross-border e-commerce opens additional sales channels for companies. Yeah? And as Neel said, it's not only about the big companies, it's also about the smaller, mid-sized e-tailers having the opportunity to sell in different markets. Not only in their home market, but also abroad. And air freight really enables this business and enables growth for these companies. And therefore it's definitely a growth segment, and we are here to enable this business.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. I believe like when 10 years back I came across a number of small and medium scale businesses in India. They began to sell online on Alibaba.com. The market size, the potential market that they are able to reach through these platforms have really grown. And I believe also it's like companies and airlines and airports and freight forwarders, they do provide that platform for different small and medium scales to discover new market, and that I think is the biggest offering that logistics service providers offer to the business people. Okay, you have any questions? Then we take a couple of questions and then wind up with the closing comments.
Good morning, Paul Needham, journalist from CP Research. A lot of what you've been saying is a very positive outlook. What do you see in terms of risks and challenges for e-commerce growth going ahead, especially on the regulatory side, especially in Europe, where the European Commission and other governments are maybe looking at more regulatory controls or maybe increased costs on e-commerce?
I think when we're talking about cross-border e-commerce, the challenge is we're dealing with different customs authorities. We mentioned 1 and 2 day shipments that a lot of times we expected in the States. When you're entering a different country and dealing with a different customs authority, it can take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I mean, that's the reality. That is a challenge, but I think we're working. There are opportunities to improve the time that it takes to clear. We've been involved in programs to try to implement pre-clearance programs with specific countries, and if that's not possible, also expedited service. So, for example, in Miami International Airport, we're working with many companies. Many companies are establishing a presence just outside of the airport, where they're specializing in receiving e-commerce packages, consolidating them. They're even using the systems of some of the customs authorities in other countries, collecting taxes and paying the taxes of the purchases. So that way, when the parcels enter the country, it's expedited. So I think it is a challenge. There's, with cross-border e-commerce, but I think there are opportunities to add efficiencies, and which I think will also grow the industry.
I agree with what Jimmy says. I mean, to add on to that, I think we have to worry about what's actually in these shipments. I think the lithium battery issue is a big issue. Sometimes you just don't know what's in this cargo. So we have to look at the declarations, and is there enough and appropriate screening of this cargo, because that is a risk to our industry. And we have to come up with a good solution there that addresses this, at a level that brings comfort to the operators, to the asset owners, because there's big risk that we have to account for.
And for sure it's a challenge, but on the other hand, it's really an opportunity, because also that drives at the end digitalization, especially in terms of authorities and in relation to customs. And whoever can manage that is also a provider of service at the end, of improving lead times, improving the whole transparency and the whole system. So I think it's at the end an opportunity, and necessary, as Neel said, also in terms of risk reduction.
So my company is only working cross-border, and we feel the pressure from Europe to play with the Chinese guys, cut off flights, that kind of things. That is stupid in my opinion, because the business is here and you cannot stop it anymore. Think about every business, there is something from China, from Vietnam or from India inside. So this is a normal business model. The European Commission, especially in Germany, they are fighting against this now because there is a war going on. So the reflection of the war is already in the air, and I don't get it, but maybe it will be stabilized. But it will be good.
I think maybe 20 years back, or when you have to fill an airplane or a freighter, you would have 3 or 4 airway bill, and I think it's the sheer volume of packets that's come in, and there is something called know your shipper today. To know your shipper is one of the biggest challenge, and that's why that's digital freight forwarding platforms like Flexport and the heyworld and the others that are building that. I think that's probably is a solution to one of these biggest challenges. Neel mentioned about the lithium battery. What is inside the packet? Has that been fully declared on the labels? So that's one of the biggest challenge. Probably it's technology and innovation is the solution to that.
Hi, I'm Sudeep. Good morning, panel. My question to you is regarding returns. So returns tends to be a very big challenge when it comes to e-commerce supply chain, and I believe it's a sustainability issue that gets often overlooked. I think if we can fix that problem, one is about the finance and the complexity of the supply chain, but also sustainability. So when you talk to your channel partners, your customers, are you seeing traction on this topic of how do we solve this mess of returns?
I can react on this one. So the returns is big business. Big business for the return handlers on the airport or whatever it is. When we started with the e-commerce via Finland, there was a huge demand in Russia. And that's the return stops, because it was not possible to bring the stuff back from Russia into Europe. So there is a marketplace there for second hand, or you make you. But what you see now in Europe, there are hubs handling the e-commerce, and they're going to sell it here in Europe. But this is also a business model. But in the beginning, they throw it away. And what you see also now, when you order something, and when you order too much, you must pay for a return. And believe me, my girls never will pay.
Hi, Will Waters from Cargo Airports and Airline Services. I wanted to pick up on something that Arthur talked about, where I think you said airports need to be either e-commerce airports or cargo airports. Can you say a bit more about why you think that is the case, and like to know what the other panelists think about that, whether there is a need for specialisation of airports or at least cargo handling at airports to cope with and to optimize e-commerce?
Sorry, I can try to answer that, but for Miami International Airport will never be just a specialized airport. It might be easier for some smaller airports, regional airports. I think it makes sense actually, to specialize in having distribution centers at the airport, that Amazon will have a presence or Alibaba. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think there's opportunities for having added efficiencies. But I think for many of the larger airports, established airports, it's e-commerce, of course, is a very important sector to us. But it's just one of many different types of cargo that we focus on. But I think it does make sense for some smaller airports to really focus on e-commerce.
Yeah, that's something that I've also been talking to different airports. The secondary and the tier 3 airports becoming a major centers. Quite recently, I think it's Maersk Air Cargo picking up Billund as their hub. It also some of the US airports not really looking at the major airport, but looking at the tier 2 and tier 3. Neel, you have a comment?
I mean, I think that I agree completely with Jimmy. If you're a gateway, you're never going to specialize, because why would you do that? You want to appeal to everybody. I mean, you need to build special capabilities maybe for e-commerce, but you would never restrict yourself to only e-commerce or general cargo for that matter. I think if you're a tier 2 or tier 3 airport, it could be that mousetrap that gets an airline to fly there, because you have built a purpose-built e-commerce sort of capabilities, super fast throughput times, no zero taxi time, offload, within 30 minutes, stuff like that. I think could be very interesting for a second and third tier airport, and I think some of them are doing that, today. But I think for a gateway, I don't think you'd ever go down that path.
True.
One comment: when you see when Amazon approaches an airport, they have everything in their hands because they need speed. And that's what I mean when you like to have e-commerce on an airport. You must have a division who knows what e-commerce is. That's the only thing what I try to explain.
Like each one of you to have the brief closing remark on e-commerce and its potential for air freight industry. Neel.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be on the panel. Pleasure to be with all of you. I think overall, I think there's general agreement that, international fulfillment, we're at the early stages of it. It's a very exciting area. There's lots of growth coming. I think we have to be responsible in terms of, how we manage this, right? Because there are many competing interests here in terms of, sustainability, reliability, speed, all of those things. But I think overall, extremely bullish on the opportunity. I think we're going to see lots more of this over the coming 5 to 10 years, and it'll probably be the single largest driver of air freight growth, over the next decade.
Jimmy?
Yeah, I think e-commerce is here to stay. It's here to grow, and it's up to us to, all of our stakeholders to, play a part in that. I think we're still at the forefront. I think there's a lot, that will change. There's a lot of opportunities to add efficiency, and I mean there will be drone deliveries of e-commerce packages. So I think, we as an industry are in for some changes in the future, but we need, of course, to be involved in these changes and make a positive impact, and of course incorporate sustainability in our plans. So, yeah.
Arthur?
Yes, sustainability is very important for us too, and we see the business growing. Everybody thinks that they know the clients in China, but China is so big and so much players over there. So when you think you have a client, there is always a client bigger. And but the smaller players make a mess about it, So always look for good quality data. When you have good data, you can approach every country, otherwise stay out.
Boris?
Yeah, for sure, it's a huge opportunity for air freight to grow over the next years, to serve customers, to serve the needs of consumers of fast delivery and reliable delivery. And at the other side, it's also, again, an opportunity for the air freight industry, for airlines to further innovate, to further digitalize, to build solutions that really serve the needs of these customers. And for that, you need to be digital. And that's a driver for further innovation.
Kirsten, last word to you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think specifically for WestJet Cargo, a lot will change. Just coming back on the security regulations, we still don't have and have not followed the US yet with 100% screening. So a lot will change in that mode going now. Believe it or not, domestic freighters, you don't even have to screen any cargo. So that will change the landscape of air freight, specifically for e-commerce and our competitors in the coming 2 years, for sure. So it's different service levels. Right now, we have a 45-minute drop-off and 23 minutes off blocks. I mean, it's a highly competitive service level that we can probably no longer follow anymore once we follow the FAA in their security rules. On digital, we have to specifically for not only your B2C but also your B2B customers. And yeah, like the gentleman on the panel said, a balance between focusing on sustainability while ensuring the business grows, because it is going to be a large part of air cargo, period. And I do believe the projections are very realistic. Yeah.
Yeah. As a journalist writing on supply chain logistic, I'm really bullish on it. I think there are several stories to be told about, and I think if you carry on the conversation, like the returns, and there are quite a lot of other topics that would come up. I think as individual consumers who buy online, I think we got to be responsible and be prepared to pay that extra cost of keeping our planet, people sustainable. I think we need to be prepared. I think we can't have that free delivery coming to your house every day when you decide to order online. It's been a great pleasure moderating this session with Kirsten, Neel, Boris, Adar, and Jimmy. Thank you so much. Big round of applause to all of you.
Thank you.